Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. And I'm very, very happy that I get to close out today with a story, a personal story. And so I come from Canada. I come from an area about an hour and a half outside of Toronto, Canada, Ontario, Canada. Where there's a bunch of Mennonites and Amish. And in the Amish culture, there is something called barn raising. And barn raising is where the whole church or the whole community of Amish come together, and in one day, they build an entire barn from the ground up. And this is the culture that my area in Waterloo takes on innovation. It takes a whole community to build the barn. So I'm going to tell you a little bit today about the barn I'm building, and I'm building with all of you. So I was working in the innovation ecosystem. I was in Waterloo. I had worked in an incubator at a university, and my term had come up, and 2 weeks later, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer. I was 28 years old, obviously came out of nowhere, did not plan this, and really started on this women's health Femtech journey ever since. And as I got through my diagnoses, I started connecting with Facebook groups. I know Facebook, I know we're on to like Instagram and TikTok. This is like the old people social network now. But they were great, great networks for me to connect with people. And as I went through my journey, this topic came up all of the time in the community groups. And it was specifically around something called the vaginal dilator. I had used one of these before, and I was curious. I went up to my cancer center pharmacy, and I said, I would like this medical device, please. And they handed me a glass Pyrex test tube. And they told me to insert this test tube that we do chemistry in high school class, or in university if you took chemistry, into my body every other day for 5 years straight post-cancer. I was like, what? What's happening here? And as I looked into these Facebook groups, I wasn't the only one that was going, what? And I realized that this was created in 1938, and all that we have done is make it pink, make it plastic and not glass. And this is all of the innovation that we had done in this space. And what is it used for? So this is very blurry, sorry. What it is used for is post-radiation. You have your vaginal opening. When you have radiation, your whole vagina closes right up, and you can't even have a pelvic exam. You can't even check to see if the cancer is back. You have to go in and surgically open. And this is something that is used not just in radiation, it's used for anyone who has pain with sex, pain with your vulva and vagina, different issues with atrophy post-menopause. There's so many different things. And it's only cleared for what is called vaginismus in the US, which is wild. And clinicians who are given these products have no idea what to do with them. They have no idea where to begin, how often it should be. It's all the research and data is all over the map, but yet this is an international standard of care product. And when we went and talked to patients through this process, when I looked on those Facebook groups, they were all sharing these things. They're cold, they're hard, they're ugly, they're mechanical, they're stressful, this is emotional, I don't like this experience. And furthermore, patients were saying, like, I don't feel educated enough to use these products. I don't know what to do. I don't really feel like I can fit this in. And it led to really, really poor compliance, solely because people didn't want to insert glass test tubes into their body, let's be honest. But when we think about Femtech and when we think about women's health, it is so much more than this clinical function of doing something. These are women with fear and emotion and feeling left behind. And I know I felt that way, and I love this photo, it's me and my mom, during my cancer journey. But when I went out and I researched and I talked to women and had focus groups, I realized that women's health is this long-term quality of life issue for every single condition that we look at. These are the things that women said to me. Things like, this just eats at me, I feel like less of a woman. It's having a negative effect on my relationship. It's the demise of my personal relationships. I feel like nobody believes me. This is hard-hitting stuff that I'm sure many of you in the audience feel connected to. And so it's funny because we know that it works. Vaginal dilation works if we were able to make it a better process. And so while I was on bed rest and had long sleepless nights while I was going through my cancer journey, and I started my radiation treatments, and if any of you know, during cancer and radiation, you're in the hospital every single day. And as an entrepreneur myself, I was like, I'm gonna create a medical innovation, and there's a bunch of doctors around here. Oh my gosh, I can pitch them. And they can't leave my side, and they have to listen to me as I pitch them. And it was the greatest way to get feedback on my product. Not to say that I want that for anybody else, but. And so what we've created is this therapeutic platform. It's a multi-therapy device. It has a bunch of biosensors in it. So everything we've been talking about today, collecting data, frankly, no one has stuck sensors in this area before. So what we're finding is so much interesting data about our patients. We're catching things before they happen. We're able to see diagnostic data. It's been really, really interesting. And it's been quite the journey. So here, I love showing my prototyping journey. We actually started the company right at the height of COVID. And so it was funny because here's my lovely PowerPoint clip art demo of my product that I took to the radiation suite. Terrible. And as we went through and we went into lockdown, I was like, how are we going to innovate on this product? And we didn't know anything about the vagina. We didn't know anything about what pressure they take, what temperature it can handle. And so we used a lot of really interesting things that we bought from the sex toy store and Amazon. And this went through a whole innovation to get to where we're at now. And so where we're at now, we are in 4 different clinical trials. We've had amazing results. We've seen massive adherence increase. We've seen payers and clinics getting better efficiency overall because we're actually keeping patients out of the clinic. And most importantly, we're getting to the root cause of what's happening with these patients in the first place with this data. And so, as I went through my high IV journey, I started thinking, what else is happening in women's health? Ladies, we've all seen these before, right? Did you know they were created in 1845 and nothing else has changed since this? We're using an 1800s device in the hospitals. Mammogram. Some of us have already had this. Squish our boobs, it hurts. Men, I'm sorry, it hurts. Pap smear. Did you know that the little tips that we use to do the pap smear wasn't even built for the cervix in the first place? Anyone want to know what this is? That's a cervical dilator. It's not pleasant. What else? How bad can it get, right? We all know women's health is under-researched, underfunded, and underserved. And as I went out into the industry and started fundraising for my own company, I started getting these questions. Can you talk to my wife to validate your product? I don't believe you. Let's do the math together, because I can't do math at all. I'm a woman, you know? My favorite one, you're a cancer patient. You're too much of a risk to invest in. These are things that investors said to me. And I was like, are other life sciences companies going through this? And so I started talking to a couple of my friends, and they said, no, we don't have to answer to these questions. And so through a little bit of therapy and a little bit of trying to understand what was happening, I started researching, and we know investors invest in founders that look like them, right? We know how bad the numbers are for women. We know how bad it is for people of color. Women tend to be a little bit more risk adverse. Male investors talk to females differently, and we know that majority of Femtech is women founders. 15% of all investors are women, so we already have a massive education hurdle to get over when we go out to pitch, right? We're teaching people stuff that they're never going to experience in their life, right? And so it creates this hesitation in making an investment decision that most other life sciences companies don't have to go through. And so that motivated me to pull together some friends who are working in this industry to say, let's give each other some support. Let's give each other some therapy, because we all need it, right? And so I created Femtech Canada and Femtech Across Borders. Femtech Canada started as a Easter long weekend project with a bottle of wine and Google. And I researched 51 companies at the time that were in Canada. And I made this really, it's okay, kind of ugly map. And I just put it out on LinkedIn. I was like, here it is, guys. Here's the Femtech landscape in Canada. And we've now grown to 250 Femtech companies across Canada, and here's our little map now. It looks a little better. Thank you. And what we've done is we really have pulled together an ecosystem in Canada that, A, tries to support the current companies to get to the next stage, to get through that first bit of funding, whatever it is that they need. And I also try to inspire others to come into the space and fill the white spaces that exist. I do this through ecosystem development, so here's all sorts of things we do. Education and advocacy, so reaching out to the community, talking to investors, and pulling together resources for these companies. And what we've created is the third largest Femtech ecosystem in the world, next to the UK and to the US. And we still have our own challenges in Canada, and I wouldn't be up here if I shouldn't tell you about, what we're going through in Canada. We're really big. We are a very big country. And so we have real challenges where we have something called maternal deserts, where women don't actually have access to any care at all. It's quite scary. In Canada, we are so lucky that we have the most diverse population on the planet, as well as an Indigenous population that deserves not just different care, but fundamentally, to the core, genetically different care. And unfortunately, just like we've been talking about today here in Asia, we still have stigma associated with our healthcare. We don't want to talk about things like menopause and sexual health and all of these things. It's still something that's, taboo. We kind of hush-hush. And so as I thought about the state of our startups and the state of our country, my crazy, I don't want to swear, but said, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I go out and raise money all the time. I'm just going to go to Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, our prime minister, and ask for $100 million. And he'll give it to me, right? And so we went out and started to ask the government to start to fund this area of healthcare. Our market is a $35 billion annual market in Canada. We all know that for every $1 that's invested in women's health, we get a $3 per return on our economic growth projected. And we continue, I'll tell you a little bit about at the end what happened with Canada, but we continue to push. We've been government funded. We're now 5 years funded in Canada. We have a new program that's being announced with Google. So there's quite a lot going on in Canada. It's really exciting. But then as I started to go out and do this work in Canada, I started meeting friends. Femtech Association Asia, Femtech France. And I said, why are we not all in the same room chatting and hanging out and giving each other therapy? And so we pulled together Femtech Across Borders as a group of friends supporting each other. And we've now grown into 80 countries across the world representing the Femtech ecosystems. And what we're doing now is really trying to collectively problem solve, educate the world on women's health, have a unified voice, and share these resources. We've got the UN involved now, and we're starting to grow because what we really wanted to do was fill the white spaces and now understand what are the opportunities and the challenges that exist across the world. Is Canada solving a problem better than another country? Is Korea solving a problem better than another country? And how do we connect those two to start to mobilize that change? So as I wrap up, in women's health, we truly, truly need everyone in this room, people like you, researchers, innovators, supporters, people who are just genuinely interested in women's health. And we need you to talk, serve women, talk to them, understand the experience, to create better products, to advance the research, and ultimately, as we have these conversations, we break down stigma. That's the biggest thing. We start to have these conversations. Because as we create this more awareness, as we create more interest, more education, we lessen that stigma. As you go home and you ask your mom, what was your menopause journey like? We slowly start to change that narrative around women's health. So what are your first steps out of this room today? Inspire others. If there's a student that's looking for a research project, tell them about women's health. Support them, connect them to us, right? Do your own research, understand. Trust me, the more you dig, the more mad you'll become, but you'll get past it. There's just so much to find out and so much to understand. There's so much opportunity in this space. And have this open dialogue. Talk with your friends, talk with your family. Share your own personal experience that you've went through as a patient. I truly believe that every single life sciences company
can be a femtech company if they truly think about how they develop their products, what their usability looks like, they talk to women, they research differently for women. Every single life sciences company can be a femtech company. All you have to ask yourself is, how does what you're working on directly or disproportionately affect women? So as Lindsay started at the beginning of the day, just ask yourself that question as you work on your projects, as you work in your areas and your spaces. And a couple of my own tips. Find your community in this space. You're here. This is your community in this space. And if there isn't one, you can be like me and just create it, right? And women's health is tough. We all know the challenges. We all know how tough it can be to go out and pitch these things, how far we still need to come. Sometimes it feels like it's never ending and we're never gonna get there. But when that going gets tough, make sure to tap into your why you're doing this, why it matters to you. Why it matters to me, this was me when I rang the gong just after my treatment in 2019. And this was me 1 year ago, where I got my last scan for my 5 years post-cancer and being cancer-free. So, thank you. Thank you all. Thanks for being here. Thank you to the Vespex team and Femtech Association Asia. Thank you for having me out to Korea. I love it here. I'm not spending enough time here, but I'd love to connect. Please connect with me on LinkedIn, reach out. Let's chat some more, and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks.